Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed said 471 billion 9 million naira had been disbursed to states under the World Bank States Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability SFTAS program. She added that all the 36 states had fully domesticated the fiscal reforms in their public financial management system. Away from that, the federal government has justified its inability to achieve its promised 5,000 megawatt electricity generation for the country due to shortage in gas supply. The Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliyu, who disclosed this at the Federal Executive Council FEC meeting presided over by President Muhammad Buhari at the State House in Abuja, said government had entered into a firm contract with the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading (NBET) PLC. Power generation had remained around 4,000 megawatts because of the challenge of gas supply. He further explained that the drop of electricity supply has many contributory factors, which includes the cost, issues of gas to some power plants. In a separate development, the federal government has concluded plans to enforce a ban on foreigners purchasing agri commodities at the farm gates. Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment Otungba Adeniyi Adebayo made this known while inaugurating an interministerial standing committee in Abuja. Adebayo said the document had been presented by the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment and Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development on March 9th this year for approval by the Federal Executive Council FEC. Adebayo said the move was part of the government's efforts to provide the enabling environment for the commodity subsector to thrive. He decried the exploitation of farmers by foreigners who come to Nigeria to mop up agricultural commodities at the farm gate and in turn offer farmers prices below market value. He charged the committee to come up with appropriate implementation mechanism and guidelines for implementing the approved FEC memo, as well as liaise with states, local governments, and other relevant stakeholders nationwide to enforce the ban and compliance. Meanwhile, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has refuted claims that it spent 18.9 billion naira on bush clearing during the COVID-19 lockdown in 2020. The ministry, in a statement by its Director of Information, Dr. Joel Oruche, noted that the statement, which emanated from the House Public Accounts Committee, must have been quoted out of context. According to the statement, the ministry did not receive any audit query to warrant summon by the committee. It noted that the ministry only carried out bush clearing and land preparation of 3,200 hectares in 8 states, namely Osun, Ekiti, Edo, Cross River, Kaduna, Kwara, Plateau, and Ogun, as allocated by state governments for 2.5 billion naira. Other projects executed by the ministry during the COVID-19 pandemic, which included the construction of rural roads in the 6 geopolitical zones, soil sampling and mapping, farmers registration, as well as rehabilitation and the equipping of 4 national soil laboratories. It added that the projects were executed and verified by relevant government agencies and were part of a stimulus package under the Agriculture for Food and Jobs program of the federal government to generate employment and grow the economy to mitigate the effect of COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. On power generation, the National Union of Electricity Employees (NUEE) has called off its nationwide strike. The decision followed an emergency meeting with the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, on Wednesday. The minister's spokesman, Olajide Osundun, announced that Ngige intervened in the industrial action. Meanwhile, NUEE Secretary General Joe Ajero has assured that electricity would be restored across the country tonight. Recall that the workers shut down all transmission companies of Nigeria (TCN) offices earlier today. In another development, the Registrar Chartered Institute of Treasury Management (CITM), Olumide Adedoyin, has insisted that there are no proper safeguards in place to ensure the effective implementation of Treasury's Single Account (TSA). Adedoyin, who addressed reporters in Abuja, also called for continuous training and retraining of personnel handling the process, as some saddle domesticated as a means of checking wastage in the system. On financial crime, the executive chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, AFCC, Abdul Rashid Bawa, has said the commission is a worthy fight to save the soul of Nigeria and secure the future generations. He urged the media to expose the corrupt in the society, released in Abuja, said the EFCC's conviction rates were unbeaten in Africa, adding that the Commission was prepared to protect the Naira from abuse by those he called crooks and foreign exchange black marketers. We move to Yobe State, where the State House of Assembly has tasked the executive arm of government in the state to provide additional humanitarian assistance to victims of flood disaster across affected communities of the state. The House gave the charge in a motion of urgent public importance moved by the member representing Jajare constituencies. Of the motion, the Deputy Speaker of the House, Mohammed Issa Bello, Leader of the House, Buka Mustafa, Honorable Abdullahi Adamu, as well as Kachala Ajia, among others, sympathized with the flood victims and stressed the need for the state executive to look into the problems for a lasting solution to the annual disaster in the state. The members of the House who spoke at length on the disaster said it has caused colossal loss of lives and destruction of farmlands, houses and property worth millions of naira in their respective constituencies across the state. They also stressed the need for the government to direct the local government sanitation committees to clear all the drainages and construct additional ones, especially in the water areas, in order to control the annual flood phenomena. Meanwhile, no fewer than 50 commercial tricycles were reportedly damaged in Bayelsa State on Wednesday as officers of the Federal Road Safety Corps and the Nigeria Police Force tried to stop a protest by the tricycle riders. It was gathered that some persons were also injured during the incident, which happened around the Igbi Road junction in Yenagoa, the state capital. The complaint that the FRSC officers targeted them for extortion of money and harassment under the guise of enforcing traffic laws. We move to Africa Democratic Republic of Congo's President Felix Tshisekedi, who has taken the helm of the Southern African Development Community, SADC, during the 42nd Ordinary Summit of Heads of State and Government of this organization, held in Kinshasa from August 17th and closing today, the 18th of August 2022. The Kinshasa Summit is hosting a dozen SADC heads of state and will review progress in regional integration in line with SADC aspirations, which envision an industrialized, peaceful, inclusive, competitive, middle to a high-income region where all citizens enjoy sustainable economic well-being. President Felix succeeds Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera, President of the Republic of Malawi. Meanwhile, the outgoing SADC president has called upon member countries to be independent of external influence, especially the Democratic Republic of Kenya.
No one outside Africa who is coming to build Africa the way we want it to be built. Not the Americans, not the Europeans, not the Asians. They must give us a road here, or they may give us a road here and there, a stadium here or two, a few $1 million that are nothing more than pocket change to them, and that are nothing compared to the amounts they give each other as Westerners or Easterners. The plunder that we have allowed the West to conduct here in the DRC is a sin that we must repent of, resolve, and refuse to see repeated anywhere else in our region.
In Africa, at least 26 people have reportedly been killed and dozens more injured in forest fires that have devastated northern Algeria. The country's Interior Minister Kamel Beljoud said 24 died in El Taf near the border with Tunisia, as well as a mother and daughter in Setif. Reports say 350 residents have been evacuated in various provinces. The Civil Protection Agency said The LTAF was the worst hit area with 16 fires in progress. On the foreign scene, Chinese planes are firing rods into the sky to bring more rainfall to its crucial Yangtze River, which has dried up in parts as swaths of the nation fall into drought and is faced with the worst heat wave on record. Several regions on the Yangtze have launched weather modification programs, but with cloud cover too thin. Operations in some drought-ravaged parts of the river basins have remained on standby. China's Ministry of Water Resources said in a notice that drought throughout the Yangtze River Basin was adversely affecting drinking water, security of rural people and livestock, and the growth of crops. Reports say central China's Hubei province became the latest to announce it would seed clouds using silver iodine rods to induce rainfall. At least 4.2 million people in Hubei have been affected by a severe drought since June. Hubei's Provincial Emergency Management Department said more than 150,000 people there have difficulties accessing drinking water, and nearly 4,000 hectares of crops have been damaged because of high temperatures and drought. Still to come in the news. Okogie makes top 10 possible breakout at FIFA World Cup qualifiers. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying tuned. And now to the rest of our news. On our business news, power generation and distribution companies owe Nigerian banks 830.09 billion naira amid the lingering problems plaguing the sector since it was privatized over 8 years ago. This is according to the Central Bank of Nigeria's June 2022 data report, saying while power generation firms and independent power producers owed banks 562.19 billion naira, power transmission and distribution firms were indebted to the tune of 273.89 billion naira. Recall that the federal government officially privatized the 6 successful power generation companies and 11 distribution firms that were unbundled from the defunct Power Holding Company of Nigeria. The acquisition by the core investors were financed mostly by debts, a significant portion of which was provided by local banks. Still in business, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, yesterday denied the engagement of a consultant to collect money at loading depots and highways. He noted that the statement has placed security agencies to be on the alert to avert any resultant crisis and scarcity of the product. IPMAN urged security agencies to be on alert to avert any crisis that may likely lead to breakdown of law and order, which is capable of causing scarcity of petroleum products across the country. In health, members of the Nigeria Governors Forum have pledged to progressively allocate more of their state resources to primary health care through efficient budgeting aligned to annual operational plans. They also pledged prompt release of the approved budget to their Scale the Pledge at the forum's meeting at the State House, Abuja. Fayemi said the governors would recruit the required quantity and quality of the workforce in all primary healthcare facilities in line with the minimum staffing requirements appropriate for their level according to each state's minimum service package. Still in health, the UK government has announced that thousands of people in Britain infected with HIV and hepatitis C through contaminated blood transfusions will receive a compensation payment decades after the scandal. The government said the tax-free payments to survivors of the scandal and bereaved partners of the thousands estimated to have died from the contaminated blood would be made by the end of October. Recall that thousands of people with hemophilia contracted hepatitis C and HIV after receiving blood transfusions, mainly from the United States through the state's National Health Service (NHS) in the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s. Reports say due to shortage of blood products in Britain, the NHS bought much of its stock from US suppliers whose donors, including prisoners and other groups at high risk of infection, had been paid for their blood. Meanwhile, an estimated 2,400 patients died after being infected through contaminated blood products in the 1970s and 1980s. In sports, the race for the 5 tickets available for African countries of the 2023 FIBA Basketball World Cup has tightened up, and it has prompted teams to select some of their best talented players. While African basketball fans are familiar with the names of most of these outstanding players, there are a few faces that are yet to make their names heard and talked about across African arenas. Among the 10 new stars expected to shine at the qualifiers include the Tigers' George Okogie. Before making his debut for Nigeria at the 2019 FIBA Basketball World Cup, the 23-year-old had featured for the USA in the 2017 FIBA Under-19 basketball in Cairo. Reports say this will be his first appearance on the continent of Africa with the Nigerian uniform on. Meanwhile, from August 26 to 28, the remaining 12 teams will compete in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, and Mansour, Tunisia, where 10 players are set to break out in Window 4 of the World Cup African qualifiers. Still in sports, the Sports Ministry has announced the dissolution of the Interim Management Committee set up to oversee Nigerian basketball following an initial 2-year ban on international basketball by the federal government. The ministry, in a statement dated August 15, 2022, and signed by its Director of Press, Manga Mohammed, said the federal government, in addressing the lingering crisis in the Nigeria Basketball Federation, had cause to set up an interim management committee following Nigeria's withdrawal from international competitions for 2 years. Recall that in May 2022, the federal government withdrew Nigeria from all international basketball competition for 2 years following the lingering leadership rift in the Nigeria Basketball Federation, saying it was part of government's efforts to revamp the sport from the grassroots, as well as put an end to the crisis that had rocked the NBBF. On our entertainment news, singer Peter Okoye, popularly known as Mr. P, has taken a swipe at jobless graduates with misplaced priorities. The P-Square twin, in a post, chided graduates who do not deploy their smartphones for productivity, especially on social media. According to him, despite being without jobs, many graduates strive to get smartphones, making a case for those responsible for their joblessness. Still on entertainment, the Lagos State Police Command has reacted to popular singer Buju's statement that he spat on a police officer during a confrontation. The singer took to Twitter on Wednesday. In the tweet he later deleted, saying he just spat on a police officer and it felt so good. Reacting, Lagos Police Command spokesperson Benjamin Hundeyin said the police officers involved will be sanctioned for their misbehavior. He, however, stated that if Buju is guilty, on the other hand, he will answer for assaulting an officer. That's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 12. I am Uyaya Nek, and thanks for watching, and do enjoy the rest of your day.